And while we mostly are not going to do our traditional news roundup because we're just going to talk about all kinds of news and current events with Clint, uh, just because we kind of wandered in when I made fun of you about your eye bags and peptides, I do think it's interesting. There's a small piece of news that came out that seems unrelated to cannabis, but I think that there is actually a worthwhile cannabis connection to be made. And that has to do with the FDA in this past week pushing forward some what people have considered some sort of controversial peptides through approval that don't
Hmm.
have as much research or haven't gone through the regular FDA approval process that historically most medicines have to open the door towards compounding pharmacies and telehealth being able to sell these things. And I think that since this is a cannabis show and we aren't here to talk about longevity peptides, although interesting, the connection is really that the FDA has been historically silent on our industry, and there is a lot of discussion kind of behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and in discussions like this about how the FDA is going to get more involved in cannabis. And what I am seeing is an FDA that is starting to have a different or broader approach than historically the FDA always had. And not that these peptides are very much like cannabis and that they are single molecules as opposed to cannabis being this full spectrum plant, which seems to be why the FDA has been so confused by it. It's just so
Hmm.
confusing. But either way, I think it's newsworthy and pretty interesting. I'm following it. Are you paying attention?
Yeah, I am. And they live in two different worlds for me because the way I think about the federal government and the FDA in particular is that when you, there's two things that the FDA seems to really care about is one, drug to drug interactions, which they should, which cannabinoids, because they get how they get processed through the liver and the lymphatic system, do have these interactions that we should be paying attention to. Also, mind altering substances. We have recognized that anytime you work your way into what might be considered an adult product, the federal government really starts to care. And so this has been shown with kratom and other ingredients. It's like, and I think the whole kind of mood, not mood altering, mood enhancing like CPG space really kind of flirts with this line. It's like, oh, let's add some adaptogens, let's add some mushrooms and enhance the human experience. But as soon as you get into that kind of mind altering state, then the FDA really starts to care. So peptides are really interesting, right? They are often exogenous ingredients that the body naturally makes. It's like amplifying them. There isn't often mind altering
Mind, yeah.
experiences associated with them, nor are there as many drug to drug interactions. But the interesting thing here is apparently the FDA doesn't care about the long term impacts of adding all
Yeah.
these external
It's
substances to you.
true.
So it's just
Yeah.
really bizarre to like this mind map that it's creating for me about how the federal government, how the FDA thinks about like what we put into our bodies.
So interesting. And I was following very closely the FDA's look at MDMA last year,
Mm.
which ultimately did not make it out of its phase 3 clinical trials.
Nope,
And
mind
a big
altering.
part, yeah, and a huge issue there had to do with the whole system around double blind testing. And that when people took MDMA, they felt it, and the people that were
Oh,
taking the placebo knew that they
God
were not
forbid
on
it works.
MDMA. No big surprise, right? So it was this
That's not going
problem
to
that they
bode well
had.
for weed.
So I could see it being the same problem.